Aloha friends, wanted to give you a home gym tour. Our only employee, Deebot, is working hard right now. And I just wanted to talk about the things that I think have the most importance, like the things I use every day, or close to it. And the first one is a nice solid mat. And when I say solid, that is light, but it is durable. So I can do jump rope on it. I can do any stretches on it. I can lay on it. It's not terribly comfortable, but it's not uncomfortable either. Let's turn Deebot off for a second. Next up, and utility. These are relatively heavy cork yoga blocks. The reason I want them, for me, to be heavier is I'd like them to stay put and not tip over. So if I was doing something where I was using them to extend a range of motion or shorten a range of motion, this would extend a range of motion where I can go lower into the push-ups. And if I wanted to shorten the range of motion, let's say make a push-up a little bit easier, I don't want it to move when I touch it, and that's the brilliance behind cork, is that it's heavy. Lighter blocks are going to do the same job, but for me, with how much I use them, I got these off of Facebook Marketplace for 10 or 15 bucks. That's certainly not cheap, but it's not the most expensive thing either. It's not crazy prohibitive. So I really enjoy these as something I use often to make things harder and easier with body weight and weighted exercises by either making the range of motion greater or lesser and using them as a support in certain things as well. I have a tiny host of dumbbells, and for me, a 10 and a 15-pound dumbbell, I don't get a crazy amount of use of them. Besides my accessory exercises. Accessories are typically movements that are either used for what I call prehabilitation, so making sure I don't get injured, like a Cuban rotation movement like that, where it is very much isolating those shoulder muscles and my rotator cuff. So with dumbbells, you can get them. With dumbbells, it's always nicer when you have more of them than when you have less. What I use more frequently as a more flexible tool is my kettlebell. And that's a 35-pounder. And unless you want to buy a ton of them, you're going to be better off buying one that is a little bit heavier for your upper body movements and a little bit lighter for your lower body movements. Like when I bought my first kettlebell, I bought a 53-pounder, a 24 kilogram, and it was great for the lower body stuff, but I couldn't do much overhead with it at all because I wasn't strong enough. In hindsight, that could be the right way to go because then my lower body got stronger, and then I eventually bought a 26-pounder and a 35-pounder. But if I just had a choice to buy one, I would have met in the middle, bought a 35-pounder or a 45-pounder that I could use for both my overhead lifts and the lower body lifts as well. So kettlebell is a fantastic tool. I had under 5 kettlebells for the longest time, and I got so many miles out of those, and they ranged from 26 pounds to 150 pounds at a certain point. And I still, they're sitting in my mom's shed right now, hopefully not rusting up. I keep good care of them by spraying them down with WD-40 every once in a while. So those, I'd say, are the must-haves. Some form of block to either make things harder or make things easier in your body weight and weighted exercises, and then some form of weight and some sort of mat. I have yoga mats. Where are they? I got this really lightweight guy from Target. It's as thin as can be, but it very easily folds up and goes into my bag when I travel, so that's nice. When I was in Maryland, I had like a Manduka Pro mat or something like that. I got a gift certificate to REI, and I bought a yoga mat way more expensive than I would ever buy without having a gift certificate for it. Something like $75 or $85. But the thing looks like the day I bought it, so I don't actually know that I'll ever buy another yoga mat again. Whereas if you buy, some of the cheapies, you're going to get microplastics coming off of it. You're probably not doing anything good for your environment, the environment, or your wallet, because then you've got to buy another one next year. So if you do have a little expendable cash, a more expensive yoga mat or a mat like this. By the way, this came from Ross or TJ Maxx at $15. You can't beat it. Last but not least, these are adjustable dumbbells. This is like 7.5 pounds of resistance that takes it all the way up to like 30-ish. And those were also bought at Ross. And with these things, I've got enough flexibility to do most of the things I need to do besides max effort strength. I'm not getting that without a barbell. And that's the trade-off to a home gym. Unless you have space for a rack and a place where you can store all those weights, then you're most likely not going to be operating at 100% world-class optimal, but you're going to be operating at really good. Last thing I just thought of, and these are bonuses. Resistance bands and a jump rope. So I've got this jump rope. Again, these things were not this. This band was bought from roguefitness.com, but the jump rope was bought from TJ Maxx on sale, or Ross. You can find these things relatively cheap. Feel it, make sure you feel it's a decent quality. You're not going to get something super duper nice, but in so many cases I get stuff that is good enough and lasts me for years and years and years. So jump rope and bands are a bonus. I'm going to show you one more bonus because I just can't help it but share the things I would have you, if you were my client and we were hanging out and I was like, wait, you don't have resistance bands, what are called hip circles, at your house? How do you not have that? And I would probably buy it for you because I think it's that important. Last but not least, certainly not least, pull-up bar. Believe it or not, pull-up bars aren't just for doing pull-ups. Pull-up bars are also just for hanging out and decompressing. And this exercise, just by itself, hanging out, is one of the best things you can do for your postural and shoulder health long term. Just hanging. You might be able to do it 3 to 5 seconds when you start. Just pretend you're hanging on to the edge of a cliff. Hang on for dear life, and then put your feet down because you can, and then reset. Do a couple sets of those. But if you can build up to being able to do 30-second, 1-minute passive hangs. Passive just means that your shoulders are relaxed up by your ears. If I were to go like that, that would be an active hang. A pull-up bar is a fantastic investment if you have a doorway that can hold it. They don't damage the doorway, it just needs to be the right width. And if you are going to do pull-ups, you also need to make sure that you have the head space to not clunk your head, because some people have doorways where the space between the top of the door and the ceiling is much shorter. So take that into consideration. These are my go-tos. For me, get a mat or somewhere you can do something. Yoga blocks. Start there, then invest and expand. I hope this was super helpful, and I hope you're having